Got the details. Jason, pretty shocking stuff, but update our viewers on the latest.
Yeah, exactly, Wolf. I mean, you saw some of the video there. It shows what happens there in glaring detail. New York's police commissioner released that security video from September 9th. That was the incident that happened outside the Grand Hyatt Hotel there in Manhattan. You can see there the undercover officer who tackled Blake, that undercover officer, James Frascatori. And looking at the video, it all happens pretty fast. We've watched it several times. The officer takes Blake down within seconds of grabbing him. Once he gets him on the ground, it takes about 40 seconds or so to get him handcuffed. Blake says during that entire time, he kept repeating that he was cooperating. He kept asking over and over what this was all about. He says the officer in question never responded, never said what was happening. He actually also released two statements today, a full one. I'm going to read part of it to you. It says, the officer who was apparently investigating a case of credit card fraud did not identify himself as a member of law enforcement, ask my name, read me my rights, or in any way afford me the dignity and respect due every person who walks the streets of this country. Both the mayor and the police commissioner, as you know, Wolf, apologized to James Blake for what happened. Blake went on to say in his statement that he appreciated the apologies but wanted to see more, saying extending courtesy to a public figure mistreated by the police is not enough. As I told the commissioner, I am determined to use my voice to turn this unfortunate incident into a catalyst for change in the relationship between police and the public that they serve. NYPD's Internal Affairs Bureau interviewed Blake last night. The officer who tackled Blake, again, Officer James Frascatori, was placed on administrative duty pending the outcome of an investigation. Should also say that Blake and his attorney will hold a press conference tomorrow to talk more about what happened. But, Wolf, I want to point out one other point about this. We do have a little bit more information about that officer in question. Apparently, he's also named in two civil suits, also alleging use of excessive force. There's no admission of wrongdoing in either of those suits. But coincidentally, today, we just found out that both of those suits, a settlement conference was set for both of those suits today. So obviously what happened with Blake having some influence in terms of how those two civil suits will now move forward. Wolf.
All right, Jason Carroll, thanks for that update. I want to dig deeper now with former federal prosecutor, our legal analyst, Sonny Hostin, former ATF executive, Matt Horace, our senior legal analyst, Jeffrey Toobin, and our CNN anchor, Don Lemon. You watched that video, and I want to get your reaction. Matt Horace, what's your reaction when you see this?
Well, my reaction, Wolf, generally is this. The first thing we're taught to do in escalation of force is to identify ourselves. We identify ourselves for several reasons: to protect us, to protect the person, and to protect people around us. Because that didn't happen, it placed everyone in an unfortunate position.
Sonny, let me ask you, the police commissioner, Bill Bratton, called this a fast approach encounter. The police union says the officer did a professional job of taking Blake down. What do you say?
I think it's a clear-cut case of excessive force, quite frankly. I've always said, and I say it every single day, the police are supposed to be the professionals, not the people that they are policing. And so this is not a textbook takedown. This is a case of excessive force. This was a non-violent crime that this officer was allegedly investigating. And this seems to be part of his pattern and practice if he has had two civil lawsuits filed against him for excessive force. So the suggestion somehow that this is just the way business is done in the police department is really, really troubling, because we know that the majority of police officers will do the right thing. They do the right thing. It's a difficult job. It's a dangerous job. But when you have an officer that has a history like this, that continues to patrol the streets and is being made excuses for, that tells me that it's part of the culture, at least in this division, and that's a problem.
Jeffrey, you told us yesterday what happened was frightening, and that it was happened in a very public place at this major hotel in Manhattan in front of so many people. But now we're seeing the video of the incident. What's your reaction when you see that?
You know, I can't help but remember back after the Eric Garner case when Mayor de Blasio, who has an African-American son, said, you know, I told my son about what it's like to deal with the police and how careful young African Americans have to be and how especially respectful they have to be. And you'll recall that the mayor was attacked by the head of the police union and others for this comment. But this video and this story is exactly why young African Americans are told by their parents and by anyone who has their best interests at heart that you have to be careful around the police. It's too bad that that's the way the world is, but this video tells us exactly why young black men have to receive that unfortunate instruction.
It's a good point. Don, in a statement, Blake said, I'm quoting him now, he said, "I know that what happened to me," he said, "is not uncommon." Your reaction to those powerful words?
My reaction to the words next, but after this, but I have to say, I think they mess with the wrong darn person, because further in that statement, Wolfie said, "I'm going to make sure that I use my voice," and I'm paraphrasing here, "so that this doesn't happen again." I think that, yes, it does happen to many people, and those people don't get an apology from the mayor and from the police commissioner. And I think Jeffrey Toobin is exactly right. And I know that I say it, sometimes Sonny says it, Jeffrey says it. It's unfortunate. I know people get upset when you say comply, but he did everything right. It should not happen, but he might not be alive had he resisted.
Sonny, the police officer in question, as we've been pointing out, previously named in these two lawsuits, alleged excessive use of force in these separate incidents. One said the officer failed to identify himself, which Blake also says in his statement. So is there a problem here as far as the NYPD is concerned?
There is a problem. I mean, we know that just 2 years ago, a judge said that the NYPD's, process of stop and frisk was unconstitutional and that they needed wholesale reform. And we know historically, the data is there, that African-American men are stopped much more than their white and Latino counterparts. And an African-American young man is 21 times more likely to be shot by a police officer than his white or Latino counterparts. Those are the facts. Those are the stats. And so this is emblematic, and I agree with Don. This happened to a high-profile young African-American man, someone that has a voice. The stats show that this happens day in and day out. And as the mother of a young boy, I have instructed him how to behave when he will be approached by a law enforcement officer, because unfortunately they don't know that he's my son. They don't know that he's a straight-A student. They don't know that he's a star athlete. All they know statistically is that he is a young African-American man, and he is going to be stopped. So this is something that we have to take care of.
And in this day and age of video cameras almost everywhere, presumably we're going to see more of this down the road. Guys, thanks very much. Don, by the way, will be back later tonight, just a few hours, 9 p.m. Eastern.